Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. The flag behind me, of course, you're looking at this with disgust, I am sure, but this is in honor of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, where I stood up on April 17th, 2024. And gave a real quick, because you can't stand up, it's not right to stand up. They said if I wasn't invited, but it was open door, and here I am. And there is Sam Sallypore, who was talking about the quality dysfunction of the 777, 787, and the retaliation that he got from Boeing. Well, of course he did, and I'm going to show you why. But this video today is about Boeing whistleblowers go public. FAA Air 21 is weak because Boeing is FAA regulator 2009 to present. Yes, you will find out the reason why it's weak is because Boeing is the FAA. So how can one FAA agency talk about the other FAA agency? It is disgusting. So let's continue on. And that AR-21, let me read it to you. AR-21 is codified in 49 USC 42121 and provides a process to allow air carrier industry employees to challenge being discharged or otherwise being discriminated against for providing information related to air carrier safety to their employer or the federal government. Well, how in good conscience can they give a deposition to freaking the FAA when Boeing, the company that they work for, is the FAA? You can't make this up. Let's continue. ANSI ANAP. Actually, it's ANSI at this time. The American National Standards Institute is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental entity that harbors both federal agencies and corporations on board. In 2015, Mr. Randy Dory, then the Vice President of ANAP, Chairman of the IF, the International Accreditation Forum, he is also the principal on the IF tax report, which means he had complete control over those two organizations. He handed over leadership of the IF to this communist Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, who also at that time was the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services in Beijing, China, that certified the laboratory, the BioLevel 4 lab in Wuhan, China, no less. And by the way, the IAF is a repository for both national and international accreditation bodies. And basically, they are also a sister organization to the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation out of Australia. ANSI ANAP, you will discover, are underwriters for both the IAF and ILAC. That means any systematic or product failure, they should be taken to task along with the manufacturer of those products. If you don't believe me, here is Zhao Jinwu in 2017 giving a certificate for laboratory accreditation to the BioLevel 4 lab in Wuhan, China. In 2018, there was a contingency that went down from the United States to check out the lab, and the laboratory scientists said that, we need more trained technicians. And in a CDC document from 2019, training document for no other than Wuhan, China, it states, the most critical part of any laboratory is not just the facility, but well-trained technicians that's the first line of defense for containment of any type of contagion or virus, what have you. Well, what they did is they gave a certificate to a ill-prepared laboratory, as stated in 2018 in a Politica article, and it will be down below. It's absolutely horrendous. In fact, we have a Miss Pamela Sale who, during 2017, gave a deposition in Florida. Now, at the time, she was the vice president of laboratory accreditation, and she stated that one of the issues is that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards, and I'm going to add two laboratories, that forensic labs, phlebotomy labs, BioLevel 4 labs around the country and world have to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines that a lab chooses to follow or not. You have the IAF and ILAC. They are two sister organizations. In fact, ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, is the founder of the IAF. Are you grasping that? I hope so, ladies and gentlemen. We continue on. You have ANAP sitting on ANSI's board. You have ANSI sitting on ANAP's board. You have 10 different registrars in communist China that are ANAP accredited, ANSI ANAP accredited, that can issue a laboratory cert. In 2018, you have the factor that ANSI took over complete control over ANAP. And they sat between 2015 and 21 because it was controlled by communist China. Zhao Junwu had complete control of an American-based, incorporated in Delaware organization that had both federal agencies and corporations on board, ANSI ANAB. Here goes a good one. You have, well, this is just a sample. You have government, corporate governance, you have federal agencies, ANSI ANAB membership. Now we go on to Boeing. This is where Boeing comes in. Boeing comes into play here. In April of 2002, you have a factor about them trying to skip on special processes and delegated the special process certification to Performance Review Institute. This is a sample. Basically what it says, and this is their little caveat down below. It says, if any aerospace certified supplier refuses to be part of the OASIS database, which is the online aerospace systems integration system, whatever, or refuses to set up an OASIS administrator, the certification bodies or registrars are required by the IAQG to revoke the certificate of registration. By the way, the International Accreditation Quality Group, okay, IAQG, the International Aerospace Quality Group, also sits on ANSI's board, just like the Society for Engineers, who handles aerospace documentation. And this is the actual web page. I didn't blow it up for you, ladies and gentlemen, but that's it. And then that was in April. In July, Boeing came out with a supplier bulletin that states basically an on-site Boeing survey audit of supplier's quality system if need be. Our preference is to deal with proven suppliers with excellent quality performance and not have to do on-site quality system audits. Well, guess what? In 2002, they gave up special processes, non-destructive testing, heat treat, etc., to a piece of paper. As I showed you, this isn't the actual cert, but this is basically a sample. Not even a sample. I just want to show you this. You hand them the NADCAP cert. Boeing says, okay, that system looks good. Now, with the supplier bulletin, this is strange because they call out, here it is, right over here, you have the factor that you have an ANSI ANAB accredited AS9100 certificate for aerospace. Basically, what they say in that procedure is they say, send in your certificate, as long as it's ANSI ANAB accredited, and send in your parts. And Boeing does not have to go out to the facility to look at it to see if it's not being made in a swamp, in a garage, in their backyard in the dirt. Nobody knows. They just take a piece of paper. Do you think that's right, ladies and gentlemen? To take a piece of paper as verification that the quality system is good? I've been involved with quality for over 40 plus years. Again, let me introduce myself. My name is Daryl Guberman. I'm the CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. We also do ISO certification and all derivatives. And we have over 40 plus years in aerospace, medical implants, printing, and plastic distribution, where we dealt with all these different industries. On top of it, in 2009, this is the kicker, Boeing was made a FAA regulator, which means Boeing's commercial airplane division to self-certify its own aircraft. For those people who don't know, like a lady from Bloomberg, she didn't know. She was writing in aerospace for 10 years. She didn't know it. I'm not going to use her name. But when we spoke, when she wanted to interview me, I said, look, I want to tell you this. You know what self-certification means? She said, well, I don't know. That means they can design it, build it, fly it, and approve it. That's what Boeing was able to do. Many of you have heard about the MCAS system and also about poor Sam Salipar, who is saying that the 787 designs aren't the best in the world. He said that there were people hopping up on the fuselage to make it fit properly, the 787. Well, here it is. This paragraph here states, here it is, and here we go. The new system allows Boeing employees to perform tasks on behalf of the FAA that include oversight of testing and product standards, along with certification of aircraft technologies and new aircraft designs. Here it is, along with certification of aircraft technologies, that's the MCAS system, and also aircraft designs. That's what Sam Salipar is saying. And here you go. It also says this. Boeing already has in-house inspection programs, and much of Boeing's inspection work is already delegated to FAA-appointed in-house company inspectors who report most of their findings to the FAA. Wouldn't you say all of them? But because they were given that FAA very special title as an FAA regulator, you would have Jim McKervey, who brought the 737 MAX into fruition. You'd have Dennis Muilenburg, and also David Calhoun, present CEO. They are all FAA administrators, because if their employees are working FAA, they must be administrators. Don't let anybody kid you. And if they're not, that's something to scratch your head over. Those people have to take responsibility as the CEO of the organization. They are also, again, Dennis Muilenburg, David Calhoun, and McKervey. All three of those are responsible, and the next one who takes over will also be an administrator. Boeing sits on ANSI's board as well. Right over by Boeing is the FAA. The FAA made Boeing a regulator. So how does one regulator watch over another regulator? They're bullshitting you. On top of it, on their supplier portal, it also calls out ANSI, ANAB, or international equivalent. They sit on ANSI ANAB's board that can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification. You can't make this up. On top of that, they got snagged while they were an FAA regulator for fudging documentation. Most recently, again, I make this again, is that in their composite facility, their Bell Boeing composite facility for the V-22, they were caught for almost 11 years between 2007 and 18, fudging documentation. Here I am once again. I bring this out forward because this is the Department of Homeland Security Committee, okay? And Richard Blumenthal is ahead of it, okay? My family knows him. My mom was close to him. In fact, at the meeting when he told me to be quiet, I said, "Richard, you know my mom, Sylvia." They gently put me down in the chair. He came over, made a beeline, shook my hand, told me to give the information to a couple of his assistants. And I'm going to tell you something. I couldn't do that because that's like given to the CCP, and I'm going to show you this. In 2009, Lockheed Martin gets hacked by China, taking the F-35 fighter. In 2000, let me just flip this over. In 2012, a division of United Technologies Sikorsky aircraft gets hacked by China. In 2015, Lockheed goes to buy Sikorsky aircraft, and this was in the Connecticut Mirror. But Connecticut lawmakers, basically, with China's okay, Lockheed Martin closes in on the purchase of Sikorsky aircraft. But Connecticut lawmakers praise Lockheed Martin for working with an international, for clearing the last regulatory hurdle, which this is what it really should have said. Connecticut lawmakers Rosa DeLauro, Richard Blumenthal, Chris Murphy, and Jim Himes praise our #1 military contractor, Lockheed Martin, for working with a communist China. On top of it, you have the factor that the Department of Homeland Security sat on ANSI ANAB's board between 2015 and 21. They still sit on ANSI ANAB's board, and ANSI ANAB still sits as a member on the IF right over by the China National Accreditation Services. That when Zhao Jinwu was over in China certifying the laboratory for BioLevel 4 lab in Wuhan. They are equivalent in accreditation. CNAS is equivalent to ANSI ANAB. So ANSI ANAB takes all full legal responsibility for that virus escaping. Wake up, ladies and gentlemen. And here we have Mr. Richard Blumenthal, who is the committee member. He should have a red flag. That's why, Richard, see this over here? Take a good look. Okay, take a good look, Rich. And this is disgusting. Ladies and gentlemen, wake up. Boeing is in deep shit, but our FAA, who do you report to? That Air 21 that they have, where you can, freely talk and squeal about a company who's doing, poor quality, improprieties. And how can you as an employee at Boeing, an FAA regulator, report it to FAA? Who's there to go to? Nobody, ladies and gentlemen. 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS at yahoo.com.